Oh. Mm-hmm. We have our third forgery. There is evidence of a much more modern painting on the back of the canvas.
Thank goodness. Don't know how I would explain finding the original in such a state.
Bishop Mountjoy must have discovered the painting that he received from Mademoiselle Courtsmythe was one of her forgeries.
And lashed out. Now it makes sense. He's been using this room to store his own private art collection. I can picture him sitting here smug as anything, surrounded by stolen paintings.
What I find most unfortunate
is that not only does he deprive the world of beauty and joy from seeing these works, but he also keeps them in such dark and dank conditions, the old fool. He's even having to light his candle clock to keep from drifting off down here. Such a waste, don't you think, Poirot?
One's opinions are now worth listening to.
I was only voicing my thoughts.
You have thoughts beside those of Mademoiselle Farquhar?
Really, Poirot? You still think so little of me?
When one exclaims such regard for a suspect in a murder investigation, it is hard not to think any other way and comment so.
You may not be so accustomed to the idea of showing, or at least having, some form of empathy for our fellow man.
There is a difference between empathy and lust.
And there is a difference between commenting and being rude and obnoxious.
I was not expecting Monsieur Hastings to be so sensitive on the matter. Perhaps this conversation is best saved for when we are not trapped together.
What was that? Oh, just the bishop's candle clock. I don't know about you, but I've had enough of this place. Let's get out of here. What are you doing, Poirot?
S'il vous plaît, un moment.
The bishop's candle clock has forced me to question everything of the murder scene that I previously thought I knew. We must return to Mademoiselle Courtsmythe's apartment.
Perhaps that is a job best left for you, by yourself.
Aha. Huh. Aha. Oh. Et maintenant... Oh. I believe myself to be the greatest detective in the most prestigious police force in the world. But I have been duped and swindled, falling directly into the trap laid by the killer. And now I stand here alone, contemplating what is to come next. Monsieur Hastings was quick to make his excuses to retire to his abode and not return to the scene of the crime by my side. I hope there is not something further that troubles him. One does not need added strains at a time when steps must be retraced and a new timeline considered. Sacré! I have spent my time staring into the sun when deceit and deception has taken place in the shadows. A murderer remains free, but the truth of the fire eludes Detective Hercule Poirot no more, and soon neither will their identity. I cannot believe I allowed myself to fall for such a deceptive move. The killer knew I would ask for an alibi, and they knew how to cover their tracks perfectly. Now, though, I have the upper hand. The killer believes that I have extinguished all avenues of my questioning, unaware I know the truth of the fire. I wish Monsieur Hastings were here. I was perhaps too harsh with him. I know of his want for the same as I, the truth. But now I fear that I have lost him to my own tenacious demeanor. Now more than ever do I need my little grey cells working at full capacity. Monsieur Demire and Mademoiselle Babagna. I am glad to say that they both still have alibis, as the show had just reached its second act. I can be sure that neither was involved. Mademoiselle Farquhar. She claims that she was in the darkroom developing pictures, and even with this new discovery, her alibi stands. Monsieur Dryden can confirm. Monsieur Christiansen, one of my key suspects, drinking alone except for a brief encounter with Monsieur Demire. But Madame Allen can substantiate his trip to see her at the theater to apologize during the intermission. Which leads us to the good Madame Allen, on stage performing. Innocent. A side note, I must make an effort to see her production. From what I have heard, she sounds quite captivating. The Honorable Bishop Mountjoy. His Compline prayers had not yet begun, but Mademoiselle Warbeck and he were together in what I can only imagine to be an uncomfortable meeting for them both. Her innocence has already been confirmed, although upon learning of how she has been treated, I would not have been surprised. Last but certainly not least, Monsieur Aylesworth, and the article in the newspaper documenting his, as some see, heroic speech amongst the House of Commons is alibi enough for the murder. And where are we left now? Every suspect seemingly as innocent as they were yesterday. But when one looks most innocent, that is when Detective Poirot is most suspicious.
Finally, a face I can trust.
Everything all right, Poirot?
I'm afraid things could not be further from all right.
Don't tell me the famous Detective Poirot is stumped.
Stumped? No. Perplexed? Oui. Perhaps you can be my perfect distraction.
I may not be the celebrated doctor that my father hoped for, but I still like to keep up with recent medical journals.
And what is the latest discovery?
This particular article is about the effect of cocaine on the user's body. I thought I liked to have a good time, but that drug, too much for me.
What makes you say that?
I wouldn't want my heart beating at the speed of a locomotive. Here, read for yourself. I haven't actually. I gave him my office telephone number and said he could call anytime, but not a peep.
You sound surprised.
He probably wants to keep his health issues out of the public eye. Hence me offering to help, but he seems to be just fine, surprisingly. Do you think there is a chance he could have faked it all? How those little gray cells of yours work sometimes.
Please, my friend.
You're serious? Don't know why, but I suppose he could have.
At this point, anything is a possibility. I think a visit to Monsieur Aylesworth at the Royal Society of Art is in order. Mademoiselle Babagna, a pleasure as always.
Good morning, gentlemen.
I'm afraid my pleasantries are to be cut short this morning. I have a most pressing matter. Good morning, mademoiselle. My apologies for my earlier departure.
That's quite all right. Mr. Demir informed me of the facts.
The case has taken a direction I had not foreseen, and it now leaves me.
I will not stand here and listen to you wallow. How can I help?
Merci, mademoiselle. That is all for now.
Just a moment. I'm coming.
What a great commotion coming from behind the door. What on earth is Monsieur Aylesworth up to?
Ah, detective. What can I do for you?
Could you spare a moment of your time? If you are feeling up to it?
Why wouldn't I?
You are recovering from a potentially fatal heart attack. I would not want to aggravate or upset you in any way.
Are we really going over this again?
It would help me clear up some discrepancies.
Very well. As I've said before, I was in the House of Commons addressing the bench, as you know. And then I was speaking with the reporter.
The editor, Nathaniel Dryden.
If you say so, at the news office.
Monsieur Aylesworth is sticking to his story. I did not expect that it would be easy to unsettle a politician of his experience.
And why would I? Oh, to thank him for his help at the museum. Yes, of course. I've been meaning to send him a thank you gift.
One would think that thanking the man that saved your life would be further up your priorities.
I'm a very busy man, as I'm sure you understand. And I don't know whether I'd go as far as saying he saved my life.
On the contrary, had Monsieur Demir not been there with his extensive medical training and a man of your age, perhaps you would not be here talking with me today.
If Monsieur Aylesworth is not prepared to tell the truth, perhaps I can use his own pompous nature and guilt against him.
The nurse said herself that I had the heart of a young athlete. It'll take more than that to slow me down.
Well, I would not take that as a sign to start a sporting career. Merci, monsieur.
I find myself in a most problematic position. My associate, Monsieur Hastings, is nowhere to be found when I need him the most. There must be someone else that I can call upon. Someone to fill the shoes of Monsieur Hastings. For the time being, at least. The obvious choice would be Monsieur Demir. But I wonder if he is suited to the task that is required.
Whatever you need.
I must get back to my investigation.
You need only ask. Go on.
I require a distraction. I promise you will come to no harm and...
Who am I to distract and from what?
Monsieur Aylesworth, I need to gain access to his office without his watchful eye.
Detective Poirot? Preparing to cross the line of law?
Not cross, merely tiptoe alongside.
I assume you have already devised a plan?
A requested tour of the Royal Society of Art building should give me appropriate time.
Then that is what I shall do.
The door has been left ajar, exactly as required. I could hear Monsieur Ellsworth fumbling around behind his door on my last visit, and combined with his hesitation to open his door to me, I can presume he had something he did not want Detective Poirot to see.
Aha. Huh. Huh. Ah. Huh. Oh.
This will not get me any closer. Come, my little grey cells. The evidence suggests something else. Magnifique. Hot on the culprit's heels. What a revelation! Where is the sense? I must take a different approach if I am to Come, my little grey cells. Another success. I never doubted myself.
Put your hands up and step away from there.
Monsieur, there is no need.
Enough of your phony pleasantries. Let's see what the real police have to say.
The first thing they would notice is the politician aiming his revolver at an officer while they are conducting official police business.
I'm sure they would agree. I have every right to protect myself from a foreign intruder.
If you were to lower the gun, perhaps we could discuss the situation we find ourselves in.
You may have authority in your own country, but not here. Now, explain yourself. You don't know what you're talking about. Enough! I need a second to think about all this. How has it all come to this? No, it's not my fault. It's...
It is not too late. Your intentions were good. Scotland Yard will look sympathetically at...
If you had just left that fool Hardwick to it, we wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have to do this.
I have done nothing but remain honorable to my oath to uphold the law. It is Monsieur's choices and actions that have brought us to this point, and he must accept responsibility for what is to come.
Poirot, are you all right?
All the better for seeing you, Hastings.
I was worried I was going to miss him.
Your timing and accuracy could not have been more perfect.
What do we do now?
We take our leave.
And what about him? Will he be okay?
He shall be fine. Although I am not envious of the sore head he will awake to. Come, there is much to tell.
Behind the bookshelf. But I never...
Monsieur Dryden, how are you?
Detective...
Poirot.
Yes, of course. What can I do for you? She is, but not here, I'm afraid.
Do you know where she is?
She said something about heading back to the museum. For what, exactly?
Forgive me. I recently inherited a number of belongings from a deceased relative, including an undeveloped spool of film.
I'd like to help, but there isn't anyone here that could develop them for you.
I'm more than capable, and I'll leave it tidier than when we arrived.
In that case, knock yourselves out. I've got a meeting to run to anyway. I shouldn't be longer than half an hour or so.
Pardon. Where has this confident and daring version of Monsieur Hastings been hidden?
We all have a hidden side. It's just our own choice of when to show it.
So our first step is...
Don't tell me there is something the great Detective Poirot doesn't know.
I must concede that photography is something I have little experience in.
Lucky I'm here then. We need to start with a tray filled with developing fluid. Next, pour the fixer fluid into another tray and then add the photographic paper.
I have a newfound respect for those that make such activities look so simple.
Let's just wait until we see the results. It shouldn't take long.
Oh. Aha.
Have you found it yet? You want the photographic fixer?
And how would one know it from another?
It smells like ammonia. Handy, I suppose, when you can't see much in here. We've already been over this, Poirot. I don't want to argue.
I have no intentions of continuing our previous conversation. What we must address now is her potential guilt.
She didn't steal the painting, though. We know that.
Her guilt in Mademoiselle Court-Smythe's murder.
Merci. Okay, I think that's everything. Oh,
Is there a problem?
there shouldn't be, but there must be light coming in from somewhere.
Is that not the point of a dark room? That it will allow no light in to damage the photographs?
We need to find where the light's coming in from and damaging the prints.
You continue your work, and I shall find the curious light source. Ah. Monsieur Hastings, may we talk a moment?
I'm in the middle of developing these. Can it wait?
I'm afraid not.
Mr. Poirot, you are a genius. Mr. Poirot, you are a genius. That would never have even occurred to me. I've got a lot to learn. Look, this photograph is just about finished. Is that?
It appears so.
And what has she got in her hand? That can't be the same cigarette case.
The cigarette case that was taken from Mademoiselle Farquhar's luggage on our voyage here. It appears Mademoiselle Farquhar had a much closer relationship with Mademoiselle Court-Smythe. I would say they...
Cousins.
Oui, monsieur. Hastings, I must thank you.
For what? Allowing myself to be enticed by Miss Farquhar's feminine nature.
For saving me from whatever Monsieur Aylesworth and his revolver had planned.
If it wasn't for me licking my wounds, you wouldn't have been there alone in the first place.
And if you were, and not at the Court-Smythe estate, we would never have made such revelations. You are one of the most honest and authentic fellows I have met. You cannot allow a misguided moment of red-blooded male instinct to taint that.
You have never let yourself fall to the wicked ways of the fairer sex.
No, and that is a day I cannot even fathom.
With Hastings' help at the Cotsmythe estate, something I would have liked to have considered, we now know the reasoning behind Mademoiselle Farquhar's brutal actions towards her own cousin. The circumstances around the murder need no further consideration. But the location of the missing penitent Magdalene still frustrates me. A moment of peace before one's little grey cells must ponder how Mademoiselle Cotsmythe made it from the museum with the painting in tow. Ah yes, Hastings had something for me. An invitation to Mademoiselle Cotsmythe's exhibit. Even after the truths of her crimes and personal betrayal, Mademoiselle Warbeck still feels it within her for a final send-off. Perhaps Mademoiselle did not leave with the painting at all.
Poirot, there you are. What are you...
On this occasion, there is no time for pleasantries. We shall finally bring the mystery of the missing painting to an end.
We must return to the scene of the initial crime, the Royal Edward Gallery.
Is everyone present? Please ask them to convene in the exhibition room.
Is there something you're not telling me?
All will be revealed. Messieurs et mesdames, thank you for joining us here today.
What's this all about?
Yes, my time is rather valuable.
I thought everyone was here to see the exhibition.
I'm all for looking at some real art, as long as it's not all hers.
I understand the frustration and hostility that most of you must feel towards her. For some, even...
Hatred, loathing, disgust.
Betty, please.
Even after everything, you stand here and defend her?
I'm not defending her. If anyone should hate her, it's me.
Perhaps you should move on.
In this room is where it all began. Or at least, that is how it appeared. We are all aware Mademoiselle Cotsmythe was behind the painting's disappearance. But it was not a moment of greed that drove her, but rather a well-orchestrated plan that involved most of you tangled in her web of lies and deceit.
All right, we all know why we're here. Maybe you can speed it along a little.
At the detective inspector's request, I shall forego the series of events that led up to the theft of the penitent Magdalene painting. Perhaps a fitting place to begin would be with the death of Mademoiselle Cotsmythe.
If that's going to get things moving.
You are all aware of the fire and murder that took place at Mademoiselle Cotsmythe's loft apartment.
The fire that she started after having one too many.
That is where the difference between desire for the truth and the actual truth go their separate ways. Inside Mademoiselle's apartment was the penitent Magdalene painting, or at least a forgery, one of 4 produced by her own brush. The fire was set purposely, in an attempt to destroy evidence and hide the true nature of her death. Poison.